This episode contains strong opinions, constitutional heat, and more spine than your average CNN panel. If you're allergic to facts, sarcasm, or unapologetic patriotism, please consult your nearest safe space before continuing.
Trump's flexing for the 2028 Olympics, and the left is already losing their minds over a task force that hasn't even left the gate. Meanwhile, the GOP just dropped the LETITIA Act, throwing a legislative grenade into the Democrats' lawfare playbook. You want truth? We've got the torch. This is Data and Dissonance, your 5 p.m. dose of grit, laughs, and hard reality. Let's go. Brought to you by the Caleb Rourke Thriller Series. In a world where deep state puppets and media cowards run wild, there's one man who doesn't flinch: Caleb Rourke. If you like your thrillers with edge, brains, and backbone, grab The Covenant Protocol and The Prophet Directive today on Amazon. And Book 3, Black Echo Rising, drops this fall. Buckle up. If your coffee's weak, your day will be too. Power up with Data and Dissonance coffee. 3 bold blends to match your worldview. High Lakes, bright, citrusy light roast for early risers and thinkers. Rock Creek, balanced medium roast with dark chocolate and toffee for your everyday war room. Bitter Root, our dark roast French blend for those who like their brew black and their politics black and white. All roasted in the USA. Available now on our merch store. Support the show. Stay caffeinated, stay based. So, Trump signed an executive order to form a federal task force for the 2028 LA Olympics. And naturally, the media's treating it like he just annexed California. But here's the kicker. This isn't new. Every major international event gets federal coordination. Remember Obama's task force for the 2010 census or Biden's COVID czars? But because it's Trump, now it's a militarization of sport. Please, let's dig into what this move actually means and why it's setting off liberal fire alarms like a gender reveal in a drought zone. Brian, light the torch.
This is exactly what Trump should be doing, laying the groundwork for a secure, efficient, and pro-America Olympic Games. When LA hosted in '84, Reagan made sure it was buttoned up. Trump's doing the same, but better. He's cutting through the red tape, making sure cartels don't sneak across during the spotlight, and telling the global elite, this is our house. What are Democrats whining about? That it's too soon or too centralized? Give me a break. These are the same clowns who thought putting masks on Olympic athletes was peak virtue. Trump's playing 4D chess with federal infrastructure, and the only people mad are the ones who'd rather host a TikTok dance summit than an actual sporting event.
It's funny. When Biden threw billions at Ukraine with no receipts, it was international solidarity. But when Trump spends a fraction of that prepping our own Olympic event, suddenly it's authoritarian? Rachel, where's the line between smart planning and overreach?
Well, it depends on who you ask and who's signing the order. If Biden had announced this, CNN would have had a live countdown and a unity banner. But Trump does it, and it's fascism in a tracksuit? Give me a break. Look, I'm not always thrilled about federal micromanagement, but let's be real. The Olympics aren't your kid's backyard soccer game. We're talking international targets, cyber threats, and cartels licking their lips at chaos. If Trump wants to lock it down early, good. What matters is transparency and efficiency, not media melodrama. If it turns into a bloated bureaucracy, I'll call it out. But for now, it's a solid preemptive strike. We need more of those.
Exactly. And speaking of preemptive strikes, Daniel, I can already hear your brain spiraling. What's the real reason they're freaking out?
Oh, it's deeper than logistics, my guy. This isn't about task forces, it's about narrative control. The left knows the LA Olympics will be a global spotlight on American strength or weakness, and they can't afford Trump winning that PR war. So they're panicking early, trying to paint this as federal overreach to plant seeds of doubt. But here's the twist. I think this task force is also a test run for a broader domestic security framework. Facial recognition, AI surveillance, biometric data, all rolled out under the Olympic banner, then kept post-games. It's the Trojan horse. Trump's probably thinking national safety, but the tech boys in the background, they're building a new control grid while everyone watches pole vault. Eyes wide, folks.
I swear every time Daniel talks, I need a Red Bull and a Bible. But hey, whether you see this as strategic foresight or slippery slope, one thing's clear. Trump's not waiting for permission. He's building the playbook while the left's still arguing over pronouns. Let's keep that energy going, because if you thought they were mad about this task force, wait until you hear about the LETITIA Act in segment 2. All right, buckle up. This next one's got the left clutching their pearls like it's church on Judgment Day. Senator John Cornyn just introduced the LETITIA Act, aimed squarely at prosecutors like Letitia James and Alvin Bragg. The acronym? Limiting executive tyranny in the interest of transparent investigative accountability. Now, I don't know who came up with that mouthful, but the message is loud and clear. Stop using the justice system like a political hit squad. Brian, how big is this?
It's biblical, Artie. For years, we've watched these radical DAs weaponize the courts against conservatives, especially Trump. These aren't prosecutors anymore. They're activists with gavels. The LETITIA Act sends a warning shot. If you play politics with prosecution, we're coming for your funding and your power. And don't let them fool you. This isn't just about Trump. It's about every parent labeled a terrorist for showing up at school board meetings. It's about every veteran who gets investigated for owning a few too many rifles. This is the pushback we've needed. And I say it's about damn time someone in the GOP brought a bat to the legal knife fight.
Hard to argue with that. You can't call it a democracy when only one side gets to swing the sword. Rachel, you're usually the one asking if these bills actually do anything, so does this one?
Politically, it's a missile. Legally, we'll see. The LETITIA Act sends a powerful signal that lawfare is finally on trial. But let's not kid ourselves, it's gonna hit a wall in the Senate faster than Hunter hits a party. That said, the symbolism matters. For too long, these blue state prosecutors have had zero checks on their power. They grandstand for media clicks, build Frankenstein cases from decades-old tweets, and ruin lives with zero accountability. If this act puts the fear of oversight into a few of them, that's a win. And maybe, just maybe, it'll spark some real reform once people realize selective prosecution isn't justice. It's vengeance in a robe.
And you can bet your last stimulus check that the media will spin this as Republicans attacking the rule of law. Daniel, I already hear you breathing heavy. Tell us what's hiding behind the curtain.
Let me just say this. They're not mad because it's unconstitutional. They're mad because it's effective. The LETITIA Act threatens the central tool of modern authoritarianism, legal subversion. You don't need tanks when you've got activist judges and Soros-backed DAs turning political opponents into criminals. This act exposes the machinery. And the real fear? If the public sees the justice system as corrupt and partisan, the whole facade collapses. That's why they're panicking. The deep state needs that illusion of fairness, like a vampire needs darkness. Pull back the curtain, and suddenly, it's not equal justice under law. It's revenge theater for the donor class.
Now that's a segment. Whether the LETITIA Act passes or not, the message is out. Conservatives aren't playing defense anymore. The lawfare era is getting lawfared right back. And if that's got your local DA shaking in their Birkenstocks, good. We'll be right back with today's Patriot Minute. Today's Patriot Minute honors Kaylee Kozak, an Arizona survivor turned activist who spearheaded Kaylee's Law, giving victims of sexual assault the power to track their abuser's probation status. In a justice system that too often forgets the victims, Kaylee fought tooth and nail to make sure no one else had to live in the dark. Her law passed in Arizona with bipartisan support and has become a model across the country. So to Kaylee, we see your courage, we salute your grit, and we thank you for turning trauma into triumph. That's what American spirit looks like. We started today with a simple question. When the federal government flexes, is it leadership or leverage. Trump's Olympic task force has reignited the debate. Some call it foresight, others fear its federal bloat. Then we hit the LETITIA Act, a legislative counterstrike aimed at the weaponized prosecution culture infecting our courts like a virus. If you're paying attention, you see the trend. Conservatives are done playing defense. From security coordination to judicial accountability, there's a quiet but growing revolt brewing. And not just from elected officials, but from you, the listeners, the voters, the everyday Americans who are tired of watching their country get gaslit into submission. Brian, I know you've got fire for this one. Go off.
Artie, here's the truth. If Trump had waited to set up this Olympic task force, the media would have crucified him for being unprepared. But because he's 10 steps ahead, now they're accusing him of militarizing a sporting event. It's nonsense. This is exactly the kind of forward-thinking, backbone-driven leadership we were missing before 2016 and are finally getting back. The left only knows how to govern with reaction, panic, and control. Trump governs with action and clarity. And the LETITIA Act? That's not just a policy win. It's a psychological blow to every Soros-funded DA who thought they could use courtrooms as political war zones. They want to run the table with dirty plays and no fouls, but now the refs are showing up. This is what pushback looks like. No more tiptoeing. We fight smart, we fight loud, and we don't back down. Not anymore.
Facts, brother. They want us obedient, but they're gonna get organized. Rachel, bring us some balance here.
Here's where I land on it. I don't care who's in power. Federal authority should never go unchecked. I want security for the Olympics, yes, but I also want transparency. I want accountability for rogue prosecutors. But I don't want Congress passing laws just for headlines. So when I see moves like the task force and the LETITIA Act, I look at motive and execution. And you know what? Right now, they're both landing in the necessary category. We've watched lawfare become the norm. We've watched justice get turned into an ideological bludgeon. And the people cheering it on think they'll always be on the winning team. They won't. The pendulum swings. I support any effort that forces sunlight into the dark corners of the system, because justice without accountability is just vengeance with a press badge. If this is what it takes to clean house, then so be it. Gloves off.
Beautiful. Truth sounds better when it comes from all angles. All right, Daniel, end this thing with some fireworks.
Let me paint the big picture, folks. The Olympics aren't just about sports. They're global optics. And Trump's move isn't just about coordination. It's about positioning. It's a flex to the world that says, America is back in control. But underneath that, it's a test balloon. Surveillance tech, digital ID protocols, cross-agency databases, they're all being normalized under the guise of public safety. Meanwhile, the LETITIA Act, that's the canary in the coal mine. It tells the elite that the justice system is no longer your personal goon squad. The panic from the establishment isn't because these moves are reckless. It's because they're working. They want a country where rules only apply when convenient. But what's rising now is a new awareness. People are seeing the manipulation, the media spin, the courtroom theatrics, and they're saying, no more. That's why they fear us. Because once the illusion breaks, they lose control. And that moment, it's coming. Fast.
You know, I look at today's headlines and I don't see random chaos. I see a blueprint, a pattern. First, Trump dares to plan ahead for the Olympics, and suddenly it's a federal crisis. Not because it's a bad move, because it's his move. Because it reminds people that leadership means making decisions before the fire starts, not showing up with a garden hose after everything's ash. And then the LETITIA Act drops. And the same people who've spent years cheering for political prosecutions now scream about attacks on democracy. Funny how they only care about the rule of law when it's aimed in one direction. But here's the truth. Americans are waking up. They're tired of the double standard, the media manipulation, the courtroom circus designed to scare the rest of us into silence. This isn't about Trump. It's not about Cornyn. It's about you. About whether you'll live in a country where the rules apply to everyone or just to the people on the wrong side of the narrative. If we don't push back now, we hand the keys over to people who think justice is just another campaign tool. So stand firm. Ask questions. Don't apologize for demanding truth. Because this fight isn't over policy, it's over reality. And if we lose reality, we lose everything. Remember to speak truth, stir thought.